Well, tomorrow, former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris will face off on the debate stage for the first time. The presidential debate comes as new CBS News polling shows an extremely tight race in three crucial states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. We have team coverage this morning on how both candidates are preparing. Our Weijia Jiang is following the Harris campaign, and Libby Cathey is following the Trump campaign. Let us start with CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. Weijia, you're in Pittsburgh. So, Weijia, CBS News polling shows Trump is holding a lead with voters in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, who say the economy and inflation are really the issues that are most important to them. How is Harris addressing these concerns? Because sort of consistently in the polling, voters seem to think that he would do better with the economy, even though those numbers are kind of shifting a little bit now. What's Harris doing to shift those numbers even more?
Anne-Marie, I think during the debate, we should expect Harris to really focus on two fronts to address the economy. One, to remind people that the economy was not actually as great as they remember under the former administration. And I expect she'll pull out some facts and figures to support that. And she will talk about her vision, really focusing on policy proposals. In fact, that's what she's been doing here in Pittsburgh since Thursday, working with her team, working with her policy advisors, so she can deliver substance on Tuesday. We've already heard some of her economic plans, what she wants to do if she were to become president, and we'll hear a lot more of that coming up.
So ahead of the debate, the Harris campaign has launched a new ad focusing on former Trump administration members who no longer support the former president. You know, who is she targeting here? Because we know what Trump has been really successful at doing when people start to criticize him or turn against him is, you know, he's great at alienating them and pushing them out of the party and calling them rhinos. So who's going to be influenced by those people?
So for several months now, campaign sources have said one of their greatest frustrations is that people seem to have Trump amnesia, that they seem to forget all of the things that he said and did. And so who better to remind people in the Harris campaign's view than those people who were closest to President Trump, who worked right next to him every single day at the White House. And so that's why they're using this as a tool so they don't have to be the ones to say it, so that these former Trump officials can talk about their experiences with Trump and to, remind people in case they do have that amnesia that the Harris campaign talks about. And so I think we will see this as well play out on Tuesday with Harris, having a lot of things to juggle, not only herself, but what she wants to get across is to, quote, remind people who Trump really is. To that end, Anne-Marie, I know that she is working on, ways to get under his skin, to press his buttons so he can reveal himself. And on the flip side of that, she's really working to remain calm and collected when the personal attacks come from him. In fact, she's engaged in extended mock debate with someone standing in as Trump. And I imagine that includes, poking of her so she can react in the way that she wants to on Tuesday.
Yeah, it should be really interesting, especially with the muted microphones. I don't know if we're going to get kind of those moments that we, the guilty pleasure is kind of watching any of the candidates kind of go off the rails. But with the muted microphones, and it's really going to be a controlled environment, we might not see that. And hopefully we'll end up more informed. Weijia, wish I could talk to you some more, but they're telling me to wrap. So thank you. All right, so for more on how Donald Trump is preparing for the debate, I want to bring in CBS News campaign reporter Libby Cathey. So what can you tell us about how Trump is preparing for tomorrow's debate? Because we know he can be a little unorthodox with his preparations.
Yes, good morning, Anne-Marie. As we know, Donald Trump is not a traditional candidate, so don't expect traditional debate prep. His advisors say that he has been engaged instead in informal policy prep sessions. This might be akin to sitting down and talking about his policy priorities. But they also say that Donald Trump knows his policy. Trump himself says that he's been preparing for this debate his whole life. So it's far different than the mock sessions that Kamala Harris has been engaged in, hunkered down in Pittsburgh. And ahead of that Philadelphia debate. But here in Florida, Trump is at Mar-a-Lago today. No public events on the schedule. We know over the past few weeks, the former Democratic Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard has been helping prepare him, along with Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida. So we'll see which strategy plays out better on the debate stage tomorrow night, Anne-Marie.
Can you talk to me a little bit about some of the things that Trump has said, or Donald Trump has said over the weekend in terms of like threatening to prosecute election officials should he win? What's he been talking about, and can he even do any of that? Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you a different question, not the one that's on my paper. How might we see Trump's approach to the debate and tone on the stage differ? One of the things I was just talking to Weijia Jiang about was that there are so many rules now with this debate. I think that, the candidates can't help but to be particularly controlled.
Exactly. And of course, Anne-Marie, I can answer all your questions. I know we're limited for time this morning. But yes, last time we saw, Trump be himself very much on the debate stage. There were a lot of back and forth moments with President Biden. The campaign is hoping to kind of avoid that this time around. They don't want it to seem like Trump is mansplaining to Kamala Harris. So they won that argument to have, the mics off, muted when it's not their turn to speak. That they're hoping helps Trump because they want him to be controlled, seem presidential. But of course, we know that he's not a traditional candidate, as we've said. So we'll see what happens on the debate stage. But his advisors this time around said, Kamala Harris is very different than President Biden, and she's a prosecutor. She's going to paint him as a criminal. So try to follow the rules of the debate is what they're going to say. And one important thing is, part of the rules, their aides cannot come out and coach them during the breaks. So this is just going to be the candidates on their own on the debate stage for those 90 minutes, Anne-Marie.
I didn't even know that was a thing that happened. Very interesting. Libby, Cathey, thank you very much. So we're going to have full coverage of the first debate between Vice President Harris and former President Donald Trump tomorrow. It's hosted by ABC News, which you can watch. You can watch the debate right here on CBS News 24/7. And we have a pre-show for you. It begins with America Decides, and it starts at 5 p.m. Eastern.